Progressive pressure. Hold serve. Take one. Okay. I get these messages, these, what would you call them? Not messages, let's call them communication with parents, players, and coaches. So recently, this is the one that I sort of got here. And some of these coaches, I think they think I'm the Wizard of Oz. You know, they come looking for answers. It could be because of the UTR founder thing. It could be because being a former college coach. It could be just maybe they think I'm the Wizard of Oz. But anyway, remember, Oz never gave nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. So, hold and serve. So what we mean by progressive pressure, by the way, I made up that word today. It just sounded good. Progressive pressure holding serve. So it's one thing to hold serve in the first game of the match. You know, that's one thing. It's another thing to do it when you're serving for the set. It's another thing to do it when you're serving for the match. When you're serving for a match in the finals of a tournament in front of a couple hundred people. That's another thing. That's a progression. So the progression of pressure of holding serve. So it's another thing to do it to clinch a college match when you know it's the clinch. It's one thing to do it, you know, than to do it on the first game of a match. It's also something else to do it when it's Arthur Ashe Stadium. You're playing for prize money, a lot of prize money. It's U.S. Open Finals. That's another thing. So that's a progression of pressure of holding serve. So this particular situation, this particular match that I've been asked to evaluate, the score was 5-7, 6-1, 6-4. I may be off a game in the second set, but 5-7, 6-1, 6-4. In this particular case, the loser of this match, the person that didn't win, they actually served for the first set 5-4. Okay, so they served for the first set 5-4, and they didn't hold serve, obviously, because they lost the set. And they won the second set, rather decisive. Then in the third set, the player who lost was up 3-2 and ended up losing 6-4 in the third. So at that point, if they would have won 3 consecutive service games in the third set, they would have won the match. So anyway, so how do you fix it? How do you fix it? How do you consult, coach, provide leadership, teach, whatever in this situation? So the first thing is you got to know what the problem is. You remember that scene in Moneyball? Remember Moneyball, the baseball movie? Moneyball. Is in Moneyball, they Billy Beane was meeting with the scouts after all his top players left for free agency. And he was asking the scouts about the problem. And they kept bringing up other stuff. And he goes, we don't even know what the problem is. So here in this situation, if you're trying to develop this player that didn't win the match, that had enormous opportunities, then you first got to get, what is the problem? What is the problem? So to understand what the problem is, you got to break it down in pluses and minuses. So for example, when the player served for the first set 5-4 in this progressive pressure situation, and we needed to hold serve, or the server needed to hold serve in this situation, how did the game go? And games only go one or two ways. It's pluses or minuses. So if the person was serving 5-4 and double faulted 4 times, that's 4 minuses, right? Or if the player missed the first serve and the returner hit 4 winners or 4 pressuring situations, then we know that could be a problem, okay? Or if you heard of this serve plus 1 thing? Well, that they should be talking about serve minus 1, because I've seen that plenty of times in these situations where a server goes serve and just zones out, no tactical intent, just dumps a ball in the net, and the returner doesn't even play a second ball. So there's serve minus 1s in there. So I communicated with the coach with this in like little consulting, I guess you would say. So first thing, identify what the problem is. Now, how do you identify the problem? Well, that's easy, because you go back to the film of the match. You go back to the video of the match, or you go back to the charting of the match. So if someone didn't video the match, or they didn't chart the match, then that's just a shame. You got to video the match, or at least chart the match. There's people there. There's extra, maybe teammates, there's parents, there's friends, there's coaches. There's a lot of people. So I'm sure in this situation, you'll be able to go back to charting the match, look at the chart, or look at the video. And then you can dissect what happened, pluses and minuses. And a lot of times in player development, I've seen this plenty of times, going up a level in UTR, going up a level in whatever, WTN, or just being a better player in your neighborhood, it comes down to a couple of points. And that couple of points could be not getting in first serves and holding serve. It's so little, because in this particular match, if you gave the losing person probably 2 points they could take at any time, they probably win this match 6-4, 6-1. So it comes down to a couple of points on how well you play in them in this progressive pressure. Because that's where you got to really evaluate the match. Now, the coach this morning, I'm trying to help the coach in this situation, consulting. Guy sends me a text, and the text has these words in it. I got to look it up. The text says, but, if, maybe, in general, assume, and they used maybe again for the second time. I'm just going to delete that text. I mean, that just bothers me on a Sunday morning thinking about that in those terms. Anyway, progressive pressure is, as we talked about in the beginning, as was talked about, there's no we here. So progressive pressure, breaking down a match in some pressure situations of serving for the match. If a player lose serve. Now, typically if a player plays enough matches, they're going to figure this out themselves, because they get exhausted from having these opportunities and not cashing in. Some players don't have these kinds of opportunities in their progression, and that's another story. That's another video. But anyway, make sure you video matches, or at least chart them. One of the two, video or chart, and let's talk in some objective terms.